Seven is talking like consolidated murder. Yeah. Nick here?
Nick is sick, so
No feeling.
allegedly.
I pledge allegiance to liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I'll do a roll call. Andrea,
Yes.
Jamie Melky,
Here.
Kathy Mazel,
Here.
Jimmy Benjamin,
Here.
and Wendy Reed.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Jeannie's all sworn in and everything, I assume.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
we took care of that. So we did order your name tag. It's not here yet. So you gotta.
I can bring my old one. That's my mate.
Yours is the lesser.
It's like, okay.
You're the newbie.
Motion to approve the agenda. Anyone?
She goes to citizen.
How about students?
There's stuff that's not on the agenda.
Anyone in the audience like to speak at this time?
Carol Woodard, 141 Snyder Street, Harbor Springs, full-time resident and registered voter. I've attended the last several meetings and I remain very concerned with Wendy's actions. She scheduled and attended a secret meeting, as people know, with Tom Graham, Tom Richards, and Nick Whitaker on October 30th. Tom Richards is a witness in the lawsuit that was filed by Andy Potter against the city of Harbor Springs. Wendy was asked by Jim Raymer, city attorney, to prepare a written summary of her recollection of the meeting, including all topics discussed. She did not prepare a written summary of the meeting, but did acknowledge that she had inquired about the possibility of rehiring Andy Potter as city clerk if Nick were to be appointed as an interim city manager. A FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request, was filed on October 31st, asking for all correspondence she had had that referenced or included Tom Richards and or Andrew Potter from October 30th, 2024 to October 31st, 2025. The only submission she provided was a voice message from Tom Graham to her on October 29th, indicating that Tom Richards would be attending the meeting, quote, as we discussed. On November 3rd, she acknowledged that Andy Potter is a personal friend of hers. She had met him in 2022, and that she only knows about the lawsuit from Andy Potter's. This implies that she talks to him about it. As a city council member, she has been included in closed sessions discussing lawsuits. She and Tom Graham met with Tom Richards and Charlotte Boy in January of this year and met again with Tom Richards in March this year. None of these conversations or any other correspondence were included in her FOIA request. Wendy has lost the trust of the community for failing to be honest and transparent in her role as city council member and should resign.
Anyone else this time?
Gail Brown, 151
East Main Street, no, 251. Oh. It's been a long day, and I am a chair of the DDA. Today I'm speaking on behalf of myself. So in a recent city council meeting, a couple of them actually, a member of the city council mentioned that the one of the roles of the city council is to react quickly to any questions or concerns coming in from the public. I just want to say that I respectfully disagree with that wording of that statement. Your responsibility is to listen, investigate, and the concerns of the citizens, to arrive at a thoughtful and appropriate response according to the policies and procedures that are established for the city council. And in order to do that, it is critical that the members of the city council, including the mayor, fulfill their responsibilities. It is the mayor's responsibility to be the liaison between the DDA and the city council. To do that effectively, he must abide by all the attendance requirements as codified in the Harbor Springs DDA bylaws. From November 2024 through November 2025, the mayor has missed 46% of the DDA meetings. That does not afford him the ability to serve as an effective liaison between the DDA and the city council. I'm just asking the mayor to please attend the DDA meetings. It is that important to have you on our board. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Gail.
You're welcome.
Anyone else at this time? Yes.
David Lamar, 41 East Third. I just want to congratulate Jeannie and Kathy on their victories, and to also wish the council, good luck and best wishes moving forward. What is probably going to be a challenging year for them. I appreciate what it takes to put yourself out there publicly and serve the city, and I do appreciate that and wish you all the best. As you go through the orientation tonight, I hope you all pay attention to council's rules of order. I think it's important that we try to get back to being more formal and following those rules because they help maintain order, ensure everyone has a chance to speak, and keep discussions on topic. I also think if we are a little more formal in following those rules, that we'll probably be able to determine how we might be able to modify those to have more feedback with the public. Thanks.
Yeah.
Starting on a positive note, I would also like to welcome Jeannie and Kathy back again. Good to see you guys out there. Daniel Mulder, 372 West Summit. I'm just as tired of the division as everybody in this town is. But I'm even more tired of the secret plans and the lying and the vendettas against those who have worked hard on boards and commissions. What sickens me most is that we are losing Victor, a decent moral person and the best of the best at running the city. I believe in supporting council members that we've elected to office, but I feel it's time for Wendy to resign based on the secret meetings that Carol talked about and that everybody knows about all this, of course, and the conflict of interest in the Powder case. But almost more so, her part in the plan against Victor, her vendetta against the tree board, and now parks. Most recently, in completing the 2026 CIP project rating, Wendy gave every single parks project a 0. And that would include Kiwanis Park, which is fully funded by a $500,000 grant. Wendy is not working for the community good, but rather out of grievances. Wendy, the community asks that you resign tonight.
Anyone else at this time?
Just real quick, welcome and congratulations. Glad to have you here and back. So thank you. We had our deer inspection, just because I don't put it in a bulletin, Department of Agriculture came and does our deer inspection last Friday. We passed with flying colors. And it's a tribute to the DPW. Josh Warner does a great job of maintaining it. So I just want to pass it along that they come once a year to inspect it. It's just like any other inspection. They look at it with a fine tooth comb and over all my records, but it be passed. So the other thing is that we had the tree lighting. Couple Saturdays, we'll be closing Main Street, just to remind everybody, we'll be closing Main Street from 5 to 8 that night. And then that's it, and I've got four applicants for our opening, so we've interviewed 3. 2 very quality people, another quality person, we got 1 more to come, so thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else like to speak at this time?
Mr. Mayor, we do have one online on Zoom. Allison Larson.
Hi, Allison Larson, 255 East Bluff. Last Tuesday, I believe it was, the city cut down 3 trees on Main Street in front of the Shea House. I have been told 2 different explanations by 2 different city officials as to why this was done. Many people are very upset about this. After the public uproar over the white pines that were removed on 119 at Bay Bluffs, one would think the city would have developed a better process by now. What is the process for cutting down city trees? Who made the decision to remove these trees? And did city council know about this? Thank you.
And why? I
Yeah.
don't know why they cut.
Yeah,
it down.
so, the city has a tree removal policy, and it says any trees that are potentially hazardous or could be dangerous, the DPW electric department investigates them, and in this case, DPW Director Lucas Banerjee had these trees on his radar for a while. After the ice storm, they took some more heavy damage, a lot of limbs came down, and within a year, he felt that they were going to fail, so he has scheduled them to remove, along with many other trees throughout the city that were removed after the ice storm. So these were a couple trees. 2 of them, I think they were in front of the Shea House, in front of the museum there, and they were just in bad condition. And they were not appropriate for the location at this time. So they will be replanted with other trees there. But our policy, DPW director has the powers and the right to investigate any trees that are dangerous or potentially dangerous or hazardous and remove them if necessary. Trees that are removed for non-hazardous or dangerous reasons, those come to the tree board and if necessary, council if there's a lot of them, but if they're gonna cost a lot of money, but for, we follow our policy that we have in place, for tree removal.
So you're saying it was routine maintenance, basically?
That was routine, yeah, I mean, after the ice storm, we had a lot of concerns from residents about limbs on trees and trees that were potentially dangerous, and this summer, our crew went across the whole city, just looking at some of the most imminent dangerous or hazardous trees, and took an inventory and started removing the ones that are most dangerous. So Lucas had asked them to do it, and their electric guys took them down. So
Thanks.
What kind of dangerous we're concerned with on a tree like that on the road?
those kinds of trees, 2 things. One is either falling on any infrastructure that we have, the sidewalk or on the road. So you want any branches or anything like that falling. That was the main danger.
Thank you.
We do have another comment via Zoom. Maureen Kenny.
Hi, Maureen Kenny, 134 West Bay Street. We have many important items on the agenda tonight, and I urge us to stay focused on the city's business. The city manager was aware of this meeting, and Mr. Whitaker was permitted to attend. The city attorney has already stated there was no violation of the Open Meetings Act and no violation of the city charter. I respectfully ask that the council and the public not to continue revisiting an issue that has already been resolved. Prolonging this only distracts from the real work before us, and it reflects poorly on our community, especially when a prospective city manager candidate reviews these meeting recordings. Thank you.
I'd just like to clarify something. I was not aware of the meeting that happened between Wendy, Tom, and Tom. I knew Nick was meeting with the mayor, and I was just as surprised as everyone else when Tom Richards showed up with one. So I just want to clarify that for the record that I did not know that meeting was happening. And I actually advised not to take the meeting, but, Nick felt that he could not meet with the mayor and the council member on the request, so.
Anyone else? Let's move on to the discussion items then.
Okay, we got a consent agenda first.
Approval.
Oh, sorry, approval of agenda, yeah.
I'd like to move item D and item E out of the consent agenda into the discussion.
We vote on that?
If that's a motion to approve the agenda with moving items D and E to the discussion section. Your second.
I'll second that.
All right, Jean Benjamin. I guess, I switched the order up.
I'd have to respect their wishes, I guess I say yes, sorry.
Kathy Macho,
No.
Jamie Melky,
No.
Tom Graham,
Yes,
and Wendy Reed.
Yes.
All right, so items D and E, MERS rates resolution, or opt-out resolution will be added to the discussion section. After we go through you want to do them before we go through the items or after?
I think we should do those first.
All right, so now we just have in the consent agenda, we just have items A through C. Actually, we don't have any.
I was gonna say A should be removed. Also, I had emailed Nick a couple of corrections to the minutes.
Yeah.
Should I mention them now since he's not here?
Yeah.
In the special meeting minutes, the date at the top was incorrect. And then, for the November 3rd regular meeting, the part where it says that we changed the date of the meeting because Wendy said she couldn't be there, I think it needs to reflect that we changed the meeting so Jim Raymer could be there. Because Wendy wasn't gonna be there regardless. And other than that, I'm good.
So we have two corrections to the November 3rd and November 6th meetings. Any other comments on the consent agenda? For the motion?
I think on the November 6th minutes under D, acceptance of city manager Sinadowski's resignation, I think it meant to say resigning instead of reigning.
Yeah, probably should say that, yeah.
With those corrections, I moved to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Wendy Reed,
Yes.
Jean Benjamin,
Yes.
Jamie Melky,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Tom Graham,
yes,
motion approved. The next topic, Mr. Mayor, then is the MERS rates resolution. So the MERS rates resolution, MERS, the Michigan Employment Retirement System, they set the rates for the city for the pension or liability or fund, and each year they tell us how much money the city needs to contribute and how much money the employees need to contribute for pension. If we don't follow these rates, it could lead to us having unfunded liabilities for the pension. So this year, they are stating that, this is MERS, the Michigan Employment Retirement System, stating that the employee contribution should remain at 12.42% of their paycheck, while the city's contribution should be increased from 15.08% to 15.48%. And so We do this annually and it's a MERS requirement.
Since I'm the one that asked to move it, I don't really have a problem with the fact that the employee's contribution doesn't change, but our contribution does change. It's less than 4%. But it is involving money, and it's my understanding that money can never be in consent agenda. It always has to be a discussion item.
I don't know if that's a rule in our rules of order. I don't recall that. Our bills are in there. Approval. So,
And this is not discretionary, correct?
no, unless we want to risk having unfunded liability
Liability.
and get penalized for that, but,
Okay. Thank you.
you know, different municipalities have different rules. We've never made it a rule to not have financial matters be in consent agenda. So if that's something the council wants to review under our rules of order, we can certainly do that, but we don't have that as a rule right now.
What's the difference between council meeting when they discuss it one time or another?
I move to approve the resolution setting the employee and employer MERS rates for 2026.
I'll second.
Right, I'll do a roll call. Tom Graham.
Yes.
David Module,
Yes.
Jeannie Benjamin,
Yes.
Wendy Reeve,
Yes.
and Jamie Melky.
Yes.
Okay. The next agenda item is the Act number 152 opt-out resolution, and this is related to healthcare. So our union contracts with our union employees require that the city covers at minimum 80% of employees' premiums. And by default, our administrative agreement for department heads follows the same language as a union contracts. So for the several years, the city has covered 100% of those premiums, and that's the rationale has been because it's difficult to retain and attract employees. You know, government employees get paid less compared to private. You get paid less generally, but the benefits are usually a big draw to employees, prospective employees. So at one point, there was some of our lower end employees were getting paid, you know, like only taking home 55% of their paycheck to 60% of their paycheck after taxes and health and retirement. So they had less take home pay. So we kind of recognize that if we want to retain employees and attract more employees, for Kyle, we had 4 applicants. I'm glad we have qualified applicants, but you know, you want to have as many applicants as possible. And with 4 applicants, sometimes you get quality ones and sometimes you don't. So having an attractive benefit package is really helpful. So saying that, we've been doing that for the past several years. And I think our employees are very thankful and of the city's generosity and the taxpayers' support for that understanding. This year, however, health insurance plans were slated to increase by 13.5%, which is a large amount of money. So it went from $484,000 annually to $550,000. So I discussed with the department heads and city employees about that the city cannot just continue absorbing these high increases ourselves. So we looked at 2 different plans, and a plan that was our insurance provider said one plan was it could if the employees increased their deductible by doubling their deductible pay, then we could own our health insurance premiums would only increase by about 8.7%. So they knocked off about 5 percentage points of that. So employees were willing to take that double in their deductible if it meant keeping the city paying 100% of the premiums. That way, it's the people who use the health insurance by paying the deductibles would, you know, it's more of a financial burden on them. Those who use it, versus those who just might not go to doctors regularly and still have high premiums. Of course, this still means the city has an 8% increase cost, but it's much more manageable than 13.5% for the city premiums. Also I mentioned in here that if the city covers 80%, and you're talking about an average for an average employee about $3,600 decrease in pay. That's how much money that an average employee would have to pay toward their health insurance premium. Of course, our employees they're responsible for their deductibles, their out of pockets, their prescription co-pays, all that. This would be in addition to that. And so for some employees, like the department heads, that's only about 2%, of their paycheck, which is not a whole lot, but for some employees, it's about 8%, lower paid employees. So that's a substantial more money that they would be paying. We looked into previously whether or not we could have some employees paying the 80%, or sorry, some employees paying the 20% premium, and then some employees paying 0%, but it's a one size fits all for everyone. So we have to apply the same rate to all employees for the rules. So so that puts us in a fortunate situation where some of us who can afford to pay more of a premium won't have or can't, because if we want to have that same for if we want to have the other employees pay 0%. So what we've been doing annually for several years has been doing this opt-out resolution. It basically just says it allows us to the city will cover 100% of the premium for the employees. Health insurance.
What percent of your youngest employees don't opt out?
You mean how many of our employees don't get insurance?
Yes.
So I think we have 6, but they still get a check from the city for their contract, and then if we are applying the 80%, then they'll see 20% of that check that we give to them taken out of their check. So does that make sense? That we still pay them. So if they decide not to take a health insurance with us, we're still giving them a monthly check for health insurance for not taking health insurance. But if they were to be charged, if we were to charge an employee 20% of the premium, those employees who aren't taking health insurance, 20% of that money we pay them would come out of that check, stay with the same.
Interesting.
So it's equal across all employees.
Thank you.
When does the 2025 agreement expire?
Contracts?
Yeah.
I think the contracts were signed in 2020, end of 2023. So they're 5-year union contracts. So 2020. So I think at the end of 28 or 27.
27.
27. Yours just went.
Ours is 27.
I think they're all 5 years.
Yeah, ours expires, I think, the end of 2027.
Those are 2020.
And I count 29 full-time city employees.
Yes.
And then does this apply to any part-time employees?
No. Only full-time employees are eligible for our benefits. We do like one public comment, one hand on Zoom. Pat Hemingway.
Hi, good evening. And Victor, I think you've done a good job of trying to balance what you need to do to keep your healthcare costs down. A couple of questions. Whoops. A couple of questions. As you know, it's very unusual to have 100% premium contribution. What rule are you talking about that prevents you from actually having a tiered premium contribution related to salary?
Well, that's a good question from Clerk Whitaker. He's explained it before. I don't know if he's on it right now. But there is some sort of rule. I don't have it with me.
It's a pretty standard process. In fact, many companies do that for just the reason that you pointed out, is the burden on the lower paid employees is significant. But again, it's very unusual to have 100% premium contribution. The thinking is, of course, that it's healthy for employees to have some skin in the game. But so it'd be interesting to know that. The other question I had was, did we actually take this out to bid so that we could get some competitive perspectives on premium increases?
Have we gone to bid for a health insurance provider? We have a health insurance representative that we work through. And he searches for different policies and plans. And as if we bid for different companies, not recently, no. Or a different agent, insurance agent, no, we haven't.
Well, maybe for next year. And this year, I think having stability for the employees and making sure that they continue to have a plan that they have confidence in makes sense. But it's not unusual to actually go to market and be able to see what competitive arrangements are out there. So just a suggestion for next year as you take a look at this.
Yeah. Thank you, Pat. And also, I know, well, private companies, they have standards. Government has different rules that apply to government for what we can do for employees. As well as for our union contracts too. So, and as far as, yes, it is unusual. Not as many municipalities pay 100% premium, but those municipalities that don't pay that premium usually have health savings accounts. We used to have a health savings account, maybe 3 contracts ago, that during those negotiations, the employees decided to shift away from the health savings account. For some odd reason, I wasn't privy to those details, but yeah, so most communities that do the 80%, 20% split municipalities, they will have a health savings account, or they'll have multiple health plan options. We're just not set up, and we've always looked at ways to improve that and see what other plans are out there, but we haven't bid for a new agent yet. We use our agent, and he shops for the best policies that we can find. But we've talked about opening different ideas in the next negotiations, reviewing contracts about different plans, maybe having the HSA back in place.
Go to the discussion items.
What do we still got? Chief Knight would like to say a word.
Just real quick on that, I know like it's a cost to the city, but it's a huge benefit for our agency. I mean, today, one of our interviews on Friday was a 32-year police officer. And he's been a police officer for executive chief right now. And he wants to come here, and part of that's a draw. And a good friend of mine, Todd Woods, is the chief of the Mackinac City. He has 2 openings and he has this many applicants. So even though it's not for you that so he's in a conundrum right now. And there's not one guy over there that doesn't appreciate that 100%. And I appreciate it trying to find people. And it's hard today. And the thing with up north Michigan that makes it very difficult, our pay is well, but we don't have that draw like the Grand Rapids or the Lansing because they have such a population around. We're really limited up here in who we get to be police officers up here. And the same with the DPW and the cost of living here. And it's funny because Dan Steele, Officer Steele, him and his wife were just walking their dogs out there. And they're expecting, we got 2 more officers having children in May. And they got childcare to take care of too. So that really, really, really helps me recruit people. And these young guys are all looking, they're struggling to make ends meet. And that 100% really helps them. Sorry to beg, it's really important for me to try to retain good police officers. We draw some great police officers, right? And it's part of that's because of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
So I move we approve the healthcare opt-out resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Was it Jamie or?
It doesn't matter.
Jean?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Tom Grant?
Yes.
Kathy Marshall?
Yes.
Wendy Reed?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to council orientation and rules of order. I will try to keep this short. My best. I did shorten it up a little bit last year. So that's like 3 slides I took out. So it's down to 32 slides.
Make it exciting.
I can't do that. You want exciting, come to the city's Christmas party. Okay, so let's just start off with that's the foundation of our city government here, and that's the city charter. Really briefly, the city charter was first established and adopted in 1932. was amended and revised a few more times since then. And I think for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been trying to get it amended again, and that's just to clear up language that's out of date or not in compliance with state law. But every year we have something else on the ballot, or there's been too much going on, so we've kind of pushed this off to the side, but I think it's something that we need to eventually do. It's not a requirement, but it's, a charter is confusing as it is, and with a lot of outdated language, sometimes people contact us and are like, well, the charter says this, well, and we say, well, this doesn't comply with state law, so this has been on our radar for a few years. The problem with it is that when we do update the city charter is that you have to vote on every single provision that we're amending. So you can't just have one vote, yes or no, and you approve the revisions to the charter. Yeah, you have to have a yes or no vote on every single provision. So that's like a dozen or so provisions, if I recall right. So anyway, that's something that to be determined when to do in the future, but I think it's something we should do soon. All right, so that's our charter. It's like the constitution of the city. It basically outlines the structure and authority of cities to divide it into administrative and policy making. The policy making is the council and the mayor. So the council consists of the mayor and 4 council persons. As you know, to serve on council, you must be an elector, so live in the city for at least 2 years. Everyone at the table has an equal right to vote, equal say on matters, whether it's a motion on a policy or resolution or ordinance. And you cannot hold office for more than 3 consecutive terms. You have to take a 1-year break before you can run again. However, you can run for council for 3 terms and then run for mayor and back, but you can't run for the same position. You can't hold the same office for more than 3 terms. The mayor presides as a chair of the council meetings. They have some duties different than other council members, such as authenticating ordinances, signing some bills, but most of the other responsibilities they have are more ceremonial, for other things that we don't see often, like military law and service of process. So basically, the city council acts as a legislative and governing body. You can pass resolutions and act ordinances, and you're also responsible for passing the budget and levying property taxes. These, together with the adoption of ordinances, are all known as policy forming powers. That's the city manager right there. So the city manager is responsible for managing and supervising all departments and public improvements, making sure all laws and ordinances are enforced. Attends the council meetings, has the same right to speak as council members, but obviously cannot vote on matters. Yeah, there's a typo, yeah. Can appoint and remove all administrative officers and employees. So he can also do these following things: recommend changes in ordinances as deemed necessary. He's a purchasing agent, but cannot exceed budget without approval. So that means you, council members, you pass the yearly budget. If there's something that I want to buy that exceeds that budget, I have to come back to you for that. We do have a separate purchase policy that limits, that highlights how much money, if it's within the budget, how much money I can, what kind of purchases I can make if it's already in the budget. So anything that's less than $10,000, I don't need to come to council for approval if it's in the budget. Anything over $10,000 has to come to council for approval. I can approve contracts for repairs and improvements, advise council on new construction, and along with the city clerk, submit the annual budget to council for review and adoption. This is hard to see. It's easier when you have it in your packet, but this is just a organizational chart of city staff and job descriptions, and we'll get to those shortly here. The charter calls for the comptroller role and the clerk treasurer role. They're technically 2 separate positions, the clerk and the treasurer, but the charter allows them to be combined, and the city of Harbor Springs has had them combined for many decades. City of Petoskey used to have theirs as well in one position, but I think 2 or 3 years ago, when their comptroller retired, they split the position to separate positions, and it's becoming much more difficult to find someone who will do all 3 of those jobs. It's just hard. Someone can be the clerk, oversee licenses and elections and accounting. It's just harder to find nowadays. The clerk is appointed by city council and is the comptroller and chief accountant, responsible for all county financial reporting, audits, etc. As a clerk, he oversees all clerical work, manages elections, signs ordinances, issues licenses, etc. Is responsible for the minutes. And as far as his comptroller duties goes, he is independent of the city manager, but as far as everything else, he reports to and works under the city manager. That's in the city treasurer. Our clerk treasurer, of course, is Nick Whitaker. He's appointed, the treasurer role is also appointed by council. He's really custody of all money, collects the monies owed to the city, whether it's for taxes or utilities. And he has 3 employees who works under him. You have Patty Sutton, who is our deputy clerk and accounts payable. Tina Honeysett is our deputy treasurer and our cashier. And then Becky Alkema is our utility billing assistant and accounts receivable. So that's, those 3 employees are directly work under him. Our public works director is Lucas Vanderzee, and he's been with the city for part-time and full-time 28 years. So I think about 18 years full-time and 28 years, or 10 years before that he worked part-time. He's, this department was established by an ordinance and it oversees water, streets, and more recently electric. We put the electric department under DPW several years ago. I'll just read, specifically what his role is, and that is he's charged with the design, construction, improvement, maintenance, and repair of streets, sidewalks, alleys, boardwalks, beaches, and other public highways, of drains, ditches, culverts, streams, and water courses, of public docks, boulevards, parks, and public places. So he has a lot of responsibility as a DPW director. The electric department was established by ordinance, and it was later incorporated under DPW director supervision by resolution in 2019. And very similarly, the electric department is tasked with design, construction, and maintenance of our electric system, as well as generation and purchases of electric energy. Our public works staff, our DPW foreman are Daniel Gasco and Brad Baldwin. We have Joe Warner, and we have Josh Warner and John Gazelle as our water specialists, and Dan Huey Jr., our most recent addition. For electric department, Daniel Huey, sometimes Dan Huey Sr. He's our supervisor. Jimmy Honeysett, John Maryhugh is a lineman, Greg Lazzie is a lineman, and Matt Hendricks is an apprentice. I think he's will soon be a lineman, if not already. He was on the DPW side of things and then transferred over to electric when we had it open. And as you see, you'll know some common surnames here and last names. We do have people who are related working in different places. Our police chief is sitting in the back there, Kyle Knight. The position is created by charter, but the department was established by ordinance, and he is charged with the preservation of peace and order, with the protection of inhabitants from personal violence, and safeguarding public and private property from destruction. We have several full-time police officers: Josh Johnson, Tyler Swiss, Tyler Hoff, Nick Strobel, Spencer Bishop, and Daniel Steele. Josh Johnson is the one who's retiring in April of next year, and who Chief Knight is searching for a replacement for. Also mentioned here, Tyler Swiss is our school resource officer. So the school pays for him for those 9 months where he's a school officer, and then we have him for the summer as an additional help where we normally have a part-time officer. We also have Marine patrol officers as well. Our assessor and planning and zoning administrator is Jeff Grimm. This is another one of those positions where you don't find many people in both roles as assessor and as zoning administrator, but we've found ways to combine people with our small staff and many responsibilities as a city. So Jeff Grimm does both of those roles. As assessor, it's a council established position. His duties as that role is to value property, estimate the value of property, and place those valuations on the roll. He staffs the board of review, and the clerk's office technically handles all the clerical work for the assessor, but they kind of work together. As a planning and zoning administrator, he's appointed by council, reports to the city manager, administers and enforces the zoning code independently of the city manager. Also assists the city manager and clerk with city code enforcement, although that's not a typical zoning administrator duties, as he does a code enforcement of the zoning ordinance. We use Jeff to do code enforcement for the city charter as well sometimes. City code as well, such as tall grass, etc. As a planning administrator, he coordinates the planning commission meetings and reviews submissions for completeness, as well as discusses planning issues with any applicants or prospective people wanting to submit to the planning commission. Our city attorney is Jim Raymer. It's a position created by the charter and it's established by ordinance as well. He acts as the city's legal advisor and counsel for all city matters. And this council, the city manager, or the city clerk may request a legal opinion from the attorney with regards to their powers and duties at any time. So the council as a whole, I could, or a city clerk. Jim Raymer probably is our longest serving employee, even though he's not an employee, he's a contractor, but he's been with the city since the last. Kudos to Jeff for still being here. Our Marine and Recreation, we have a harbor master who's Michael Johnson. He's been here for a while too, and Parks Director is Rachel Roon. So the harbor master got established by city code, appointed by city manager, and he oversees the harbor master staff. Enforce the laws and rules of the harbor, responsible for preparation data with respect to the harbor, and controls all activity at marina, the moorings, the docks, slips, all that. Parks Director was established by resolution 2020, appointed by the city manager, oversees all park staff, including the skate park, Kiwanis, parks, grounds, and lifeguards. Manages, oversees parks, grounds, and assets, develops recreation programming, and develops park plans. There's a full-time parks maintenance worker named Sterling. That position was a buildings and grounds position under the DPW. And then when we did some reorganizing, when that person left, we decided that best use it under more full-time under parks and grounds as opposed to buildings and grounds. As far as other positions, these are mostly contractual. We have a city planner down in Angelo with Beck later. A city engineer is Benchmark. They do most of our civil engineering. We also have our Verdantis, as they're formerly known as GRP, they're electrical engineers. Our city arborist that we use occasionally is Ben Vealing, and our city IT professional is Bill McCullough. The police department has their own organization, VC3, for their IT. Our DDA director is Becky Goodman, and John Cups is the fire chief. Many of these roles are either established by charter or code. All right, to the fun stuff, the budget and the villages and the funds. We have our budget process typically starts in October, November, when the manager and clerk prepare the budget. The first Monday in December is when staff presents that budget to city council. The second Monday in December is when we hold a public hearing on that budget. And then the third Monday is when we review, then approve the finalized budget. So theoretically, that after that public hearing is the second Monday, we discuss all the changes you want to make to the budget, and then we bring those back. So that following Monday. The budget includes itemized estimates of expenditures of revenues, contains any supporting explanations for significant changes in revenue or expenses. We describe status of the bonds and debt, and then we explain the current status of the city funds. We have several funds. General fund expenditures tend to be the police, city hall staff, including the clerk, manager, zoning, assessing, parks, including buildings and grounds, recycling, brush, leaf pickup, and then some legal, IT, engineering, and planning services are in the general fund. We also sometimes, you'll see like the city manager salary comes out of the general fund, but we also charge other funds, for example, like our waterfront fund, anytime I do work for like the Harbor Commission. So we set an estimate, an annual fee, I spend about, maybe 3 hours a week on waterfront stuff in the summertime or whatever it is. And then we charge that fund. So not, even though the city manager's salary is coming from the general fund, we still charge it out to other funds. Just so that it's clear. Revenue that we have property taxes, which usually about half the revenue. We have administrative fees, which are really transfers from other city funds into the general fund. License application permit fees, sales and use tax from the state, recreation fees, and donations and grants. So based on the donations and grants we get a year, that revenue percentage could change slightly or significantly. For example, when we had the $500,000 donation for Kiwanis Park, that shifted the proportion away from taxes to donations. But years we don't have any donations, taxes contribute a higher percentage of that share of the revenue. Our other funds are the Major Street and Local Street Fund, Fire Authority, Blackbird Museum. This is a mistake. It's no longer a fund. We have incorporated and rolled it into the general fund. We have the DDA, electric, our water/sewer, waterfront, and equipment fund. Street funds are funded by both state contributions and our local millage. Our local street fund is, the millage goes into that fund. We do get some funds from the state for what are considered major roads. Lake Street, is considered a major road, for example, State Street. Those we get funding from the state for. DDA is funded by tax increment finance capture and a special assessment on downtown properties. All electric and waterfront funds are enterprise funds, and they're funded primarily by the revenues we get from electric funds from electric purchase or sale, as well as from water use. Equipment fund is primarily funded by other city funds renting out equipment. So I've mentioned this several times before, but if we're using a snowplow to clear the streets, the equipment fund will charge the street fund for renting out that piece of equipment for how many hours we use it. So when we plow the streets for 12 hours, then we have the state sets rates and we times that rate by 12 hours to charge that street fund for the equipment fund. This is a state required way of accounting. So we have to have a separate equipment fund that we rent out from. So sometimes people get confused when we say we rent this equipment. Well, we're not really renting from a contractor, we're renting from ourselves. So it's kind of confusing, but it's part of what we have to do. The city collects taxes for both the city, county, school, college, and cemetery. So we collect all those taxes. So when people see their tax bill, it's like, oh, we send you a lot of money, but really, half that goes to the city. So, right, most of it goes to the schoolers. But we collect and then we distribute back to those organizations. For a homestead resident, this can change a couple percent per year, but about 20% of your taxes goes to the city. We have currently 3 villages that total a little less than 7.6 actually. We have an operating millage at 5.532, down by about 0.1 mils from last year. We have a street millage at 0.91. It's down from 0.9351 last year. That street millage was approved in 2017 and we began collecting 1 mil in 2018. And then a public safety millage is at 0.97, down from 0.9945 last year. Going on, ordinances and resolutions. This is again one of council's main jobs is to pass ordinances and resolutions. They all require a majority vote. But if the ordinance is a zoning code ordinance, it must be approved by the planning commission as well. So those are the ordinances that council needs planning commission approval. If you violate an ordinance, they apply to everyone in Harbor Springs, it usually carries some sort of penalty. We publish our ordinances in the newspaper after adoption. And the charter does provide a way for residents to initiate an ordinance by petition. So if someone wanted to put something on as a city ordinance, they just have to go to the ballot. Get a petition to put on the ballot. Resolutions are very similar, however, they don't carry penalties, it's not something we violate, it's more of sort of like a statement of committing ourselves to doing something, resolutions or contract, or getting us into a contract. They're not necessarily ordinance or policy you have to follow. But they usually are related to internal affairs of city government. We passed a MERS rates resolution today, a healthcare opt-out resolution. Those are not things that are an ordinance, but they're things that apply to city government function. There's really no specific language needed for resolutions unless a specific ordinance or charter requires it or state law requires it. So ordinance resolutions can be very simple. Like, I resolve to do X, Y, and Z, or they can be very formal like the ones you saw in the packet. The state has a law called the Open Meetings Act, and this was established in 1976 to make government more accountable and foster openness, decision-making. And it applies to all public bodies with decision-making powers. And there's a lot to this Open Meetings Act, but I'll go over the basics. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. Public must be given notice of meetings, and the way the Open Meetings Act contemplates that is that at the beginning of each year, you publish a schedule of when you'll have all your regular meetings. And so that way notice has been given that when the meetings will be. So of course we go above and beyond. We do detailed agendas, postings, and that's pretty common and standard for most communities now. But the law basically just says you have to put that notice, the meeting, that schedule out there. The notices must contain the name, contact information, meeting location, meeting time. And they must be posted at the city's office, city hall, or any city's website. We do post it elsewhere. We post it on social media. We do a news email blast. We do it at Harbor Market, at post office. I say we started posting at Harbor Market. We're the first people. And now if you go to Harbor Market, you see like 500 different things on their poster board. So it was a good intention, but now everyone else posts there as well. We do post notices in the Harbor Light. These aren't official notices of what's on the agenda, but it's just, sometimes we have an idea what might be on the agenda, so we'll put it in the Harbor Light. We may be talking about X, Y, and Z at next Monday's meeting. We say that because I don't always know until Friday for sure exactly what's the Friday before the meeting, what's exactly going to be on the agenda. I have a good idea, but not always. And we do include the materials in the meeting packet posted on the website. So that's all available for the public and for council members. All decisions must be made at a meeting open to the public. All deliberations of a public body constituting a quorum, which in our case is 3 out of 5 members, must take place at a meeting open to the public. So council members cannot deliberate or discuss city business if there are 3 council members present and a council meeting hasn't been noticed. Social gatherings, chance encounters, you guys are at a restaurant, you're at a play or whatever, well, play, you're at a movie theater, you're at a play, you're at the school. Those are exempt as long as you're not talking public policy. So one council member, and this can get confusing, one council member can canvass another member outside of the meeting about what they're thinking, how long they're, about an issue. However, the purpose can't be to avoid having that discussion at a public meeting. So if you're discussing something, with each other, and the whole goal of it is like, well, I don't want to discuss this in public. Let's figure this out beforehand. That could be a potential violation. There's court cases and discussion about these roundabout ways of making decisions. So I would strictly advise anyone who wants to have meetings outside of quorum it's fine, but don't use it as a way to try to decide something without having the discussion at the meeting. Of course, be cognizant of your emails and texts, because when you do email and text over council members during the meeting, that could violate the Open Meetings Act if you don't share those with the public. So if you're sitting there texting someone and they're wondering what you're texting, they have a right to know that. Also, when it comes, we'll get to probably to FOIA a little bit, but email and text, those are also FOIAble. That means anyone can access your, anyone can have access to your records if they're about city business. So I would advise to keep your personal accounts and your business, city government accounts separate. Continue with that, we can meet in closed session, and council can do so per the OMA for several reasons. Usually it's personnel reasons or legal strategy. Sometimes it's about the purchase or lease of property we've entered into, or for negotiation related collective bargaining. We've been in a closed session throughout, since I've been here 7 years, and before that, on all of these issues. We'll go into closed session. But they must be conducted during an open meeting. You can't just call a closed session as a special meeting. You have to have an open meeting, then go into closed session to come out. All decisions have to be made in an open session, so only discussions can happen in closed session. Any decisions must be voted on and made outside of closed session. And anyone that council wants can attend that closed session. Usually it's only council members and staff, but sometimes if it's a negotiation for collective bargaining agreement, you might want to invite the opposing bargaining team to, or if it's discussing a lease, you might want to discuss the lease with the person you're leasing from. So you can invite others. As far as the public attendance at meetings, no one can be excluded from a public meeting except for a breach of peace at that specific meeting. We cannot require people to sign in to attend a meeting, or we can establish rules, which we do have for speaking at a public meeting. And our rules basically say at this point, you have 3 minutes and you must state your name and your address. So as far as it comes to voting, again, a quorum of council is required, 3 out of 5 members. And a member who has a conflict of interest per charter cannot be counted as part of the quorum, per the Open Meetings Act, cannot be part of the quorum for that particular issue. According to the city charter, this prohibits members with financial interest on a matter from voting, as well as members whose conduct is under question. So that's from sections 5.1 and 6.9 in the city charter. A motion must be made by one member and supported by another member before holding a vote. 3 yes votes are required for a motion to pass. Tie vote means the vote has failed. You can't proxy vote, so you can't have someone vote in your place. You can't vote via Zoom. During COVID for a while, remote participation was allowed as far as remote voting for council members, but the state did away with that 6 or 7 months after the pandemic. So we must be present to vote. And we usually call roll calls on matters of significance, such as large ordinances or matters that are where we suspect there's a split. It's just easier to tally that way. Our council meeting structure is first and third Mondays of the month. Usually there are some first Mondays of the month that fall on holidays that we don't usually have meetings. They're always have been held at City Hall. You don't have to hold them at City Hall, but they usually are held at City Hall. We do it live stream them on Zoom and YouTube. And our structure is there as well. You see in our agenda as well. We have an agenda structure. We've established rules of order, and that really governs how council conducts its meetings. There's a little bit about rules of order in the charter. A few years ago, we established our more in-depth rules of orders, just to give us a better guide of how to run the meetings. Annually, which we can do here, we should review our rules of order. And as I mentioned, citizen comment rules are a subset of these rules of order. Individuals have 3 minutes to speak on each agenda item. They must be recognized by the mayor before speaking. Should direct all comments at the council instead of debating with other residents or directing the council to other residents. Council is not obligated to answer questions, doesn't mean you don't have to answer them, but so you don't have to answer them doesn't mean you may not want to answer them later in the meeting or some other point, bring something up under old or new business, but you're not, what's usually better is to have the individuals direct their comment to the council and then council say something afterwards and not engage in a discussion debate. It just could detract from the meeting. And council can discuss public comments during the discussion, as mentioned, if they choose. Our boards, we have several: planning commission, zoning board, harbor commission, tree advisory board, the DDA, the downtown development authority, parks and recreation board, and boards of review. They all have their specific functions. Most of them are established by either state law or city ordinance. The ones that are established by state law are the planning commission, the zoning board, the DDA, and the board of review. The other 3 are advisory boards set up by our city code. Then we have regional boards and other organizations that we're part of: sewer authority, fire authority, and airport authority. These are 3 authorities that we are one of several municipalities a member of. So Harbor Springs, along with several other municipalities, are part of sewer authority. It's called the Harbor Springs Sewer Authority, the Harbor Springs Fire Authority, Harbor Springs, and a few other municipalities. The same thing with the airport authority. The city owns the land that the airport is on, and we lease that land to the airport authority, which we are a member. More statewide regional organizations are the Michigan Public Power Agency. They do most of our energy related purchasing and services for us. The Michigan Municipal Electric Association, they are basically a trade association that provides educational and legislative support for us lobbying for matters that are important to local utilities. And the Central Dispatch Authority, our 911 dispatch center. It's a dispatch center for 3 counties: Charlevoix, Sheboygan, and Emmett. Emmett County has it that they have 1 county commissioner on the CC 911 board, 1 representative of city, so either Petoskey or Harbor Springs, currently it's Harbor Springs, and then 1 representative of a township or village. So that's how we do it for Emmett County on the CC 911. And that's it. I try to get through that pretty quickly. Thank you. If there's any questions about this is just a brief overview. Of course, I did email council members Michigan Municipal League training. They have 3 trainings this winter. Well, December 4th, January 22nd, I think in February. So I encourage you all, even if you've done it before, to sign up for those trainings, whether it's virtual or in person. They'll give you a more in-depth, thorough overview of Open Meetings Act, FOIA, general council members, roles, obligations, responsibilities. And then if you have specific questions, about our city code, you have, Jim here and myself here to help answer those questions. But the MML is really good at giving a general overview of council and your role as elected official. If no questions, we do have, if you want to make any edits to the rules of order and public comment, or you want to leave them as is, that's fine.
Do we want to do that at this time, or would that be something we should bring up under
It's up to you.
business?
It's I put it in there because we normally tackle it, but if you want to put it up at another meeting, we can.
I want to think about it for the potentially of the new business.
And I just point out a couple minor changes under section 3. It says anything that's received by 5 p.m. I think should be 4:30 because that's when City Hall technically closes now.
Okay, yeah.
And then maybe instead of anything that you want in the packet to be delivered at least 4 days prior, maybe specify when, like Friday by noon or something like that, just to make sure that people know when they have to have their stuff in. That's all I have.
The other board members have a comment on
We can, I can make these changes and bring it back at another meeting. Then
Okay,
discuss
should I go ahead?
Yeah, then if Jamie's.
Can you go
Yeah.
further down? I can't remember what section I was looking at.
it?
Order of business, something. No, that's okay. It was farther down. I'll know it when I see it. I'm sorry. Oh, section 12 decorum. Well, first I have a general question. Do all of the members of the council have to review this and sign it every year? I don't remember ever.
No, we don't require, it's not a charter requirement, so we don't require. The only thing we require is boards and commissions to sign the handbook that they get each year. But we don't have a requirement that, I don't think we could require council members to sign a budget.
I don't think, it's just a rule.
It's just the rules that we establish.
I just the decorum section was a concern. Members shall preserve order and decorum, and a member shall neither by conversation or otherwise delay or interrupt or the pace of the meeting. That's okay. You highlight it and then I can't read it.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Thank you. Okay. Any person on section B, or any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous while addressing the council, shall be barred from further audience before the council by the mayor at that meeting. I'm questioning the wording on this. The first part says, when council is in session, members shall preserve order and decorum. I assume that means council members.
Yes.
Down below, it says any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks. It says while addressing the council. So that implies that that's only applies to members of the public. Does it not apply to members of the council?
This I think applies to members of the public.
Okay, that's not very clear, and I'm not so sure that it shouldn't include. But do we want to consider how we might want to reword that? We don't have to do that tonight, but.
I guess that's something to take some further research because our the charter covers that specifically and what we can and can't do about barring someone from further audience as far as a council member goes.
Okay, I'm just.
Well, if you want us to look into it further.
I would appreciate that if you would look into that.
Any other questions about rules? So I'll come back sometime in the next meeting. All right, item B, if you're ready, Mr. Mayor. Okay. All right, so our substation, we've had our first materials quotes come in. We have about 8 quotes for different materials. We received 2 for 7 quotes, 2 different quotes, sorry, for each of those different purchases, and then for the purchase under $10,000, we only were able to receive 1. But basically, so we are obviously when we're bidding out the construction, a lot of these materials can't be bid all together at once. So we have to, our engineers have to go out and bid for the materials separately. Not one company makes all the material, and so that's why it's important. Secondly, we also still have yet to go out to, which our engineers said we were going to do it last week, so this week last week or this week, to go out to bid for the actual construction of the substation. So that is gonna be the, next largest piece of this. The transformer was $1 million, material that we purchased last year. That's been delivered. So that's all set. That's at the DPW yard. Then the construction, the actual company that will be doing the construction, they're the next biggest dollar amount. So we have to order materials because some of them, as you see, come with some strong long lead time. As you notice that you'll find some materials that are more, there was some disparity between some of the quotes between different companies. And you'll see the ones with the higher cost had a much shorter lead time. I talked to our engineer about that, and he said that if we're not gonna be doing the construction until, summer, fall anyway, there's really no benefit to paying more money for a shorter lead time. We could bid the construction if it happened in the spring, but, it's unlikely, so why take that risk of spending more money when it's probably gonna be a fall project now. So yeah, so what you see is 8 different types of materials. Most of them are related to just, switches and reclosers to make sure that if, for example, reclosers, if there's a issue at the substation that it turns off the power to just make sure that nothing gets frozen. So these things are all relatively minor expenses. The highest expensive was a 15 kV 3-phase vacuum circuit reclosers, but the rest were all under or about $20,000. So you see the letters for each of the specific quotes. Our engineer had a letter comparing the bids and recommending the low bidder for each of them. The prices were included for each material as well as the lead time. And so you have all 4 letters there. Sorry, all 8 letters in your packet. So at this point, my recommendation is these are the low bidders, the low quotes. We make a motion to purchase all 8 of those and one instead of doing them individually.
On the CSI quote, I can't make any of this add up to $8,012. How did you get there?
Which page are you at?
It's the yard light. They've given us a quote of $3,000 for prepaid and add. We didn't total anything, so it's 4 at 638 is 2552. 4 at 777 is 3,108. 4 at 1176 is 4704. I can't make any of that add up to $8,012.
The quantity 4, so 2,400 plus 3,200 was about 5,600 plus 3,000 for the origin is about 3,600. So just off the top of my head, it seems about right. You see line 1 here. 4 times 638 plus 4 times 777.
It's 2552 and 3108.
Yep, and then up here
And then there's 3,000 above it for freight, I think.
Yeah. So
And then the next page is 4 items at $1,176, which is 4704. I tried adding it up every way and I can't look at any of it arrive at $8,012.
I think this is a separate quote from this one.
Is that something that you need to clarify before we approve that one, or should we approve this conditionally or something?
So I think what we're looking at is two different CSI quotes. So 6:30, I can do the math really quick here. I think
We could pull that out now because it's only 6 to 8 weeks and there's things on here that take 11 months to happen. So we have time for this.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they came to that number then, but that's the number our engineer gave us. We can pull it out, I can ask him. Why it doesn't add up.
I think that seems reasonable. Pull it out.
Yeah, so that's the yard lighting system.
Right.
I would move to,
We do have a hand up.
Right.
Karen Oldfield,
Hi, Karen Offield, West Traverse Township. The project manager, Nicholas Verdantis, some of these costs are 4 to 5 times more by the company IRBY. And I'm sort of curious as to, it doesn't look like perhaps it's all the time difference, but is there a quality of the purchase? Is it a quality of the product? Have you looked into that at all? Thank you.
Karen, our engineers have not indicated that there's any difference or quality of the product for the lower bidders. They work with most of these companies regularly.
I move to approve the 7 bids minus the yard lighting system.
I'll second.
By Jamie, second by Kathy. Wendy Reed,
Yes.
Jay Benjamin,
Yes.
Jamie Milky,
Yes.
Tom Graham.
Yes,
Kathy Lockton.
Yes.
We'll get, I'll ask our engineer about that. All right. Item C, Kristen, the Historical Society. Thank you. All right, just as a background information of this, Harbor Springs Area Historical Society leases Old City Hall from the city. It has been reinvested since 2006. We renewed that lease in 2024. And the Historical Society is responsible for maintenance and repairs of the building. And for our lease with them, their response any major repairs to the building cannot proceed without approval by City Council. So earlier this year, they came to council for approval for the roof. And now they're coming about the siding project, siding replacement projects.
Hi, my name is Kristen Baylog. I'm the Executive Director at the Harbor Springs Area Historical Society. So as Victor said, we had a very successful project with the roof repair on the old City Hall. And we have moved forward in securing quotes for the siding repair and looking at the many ways and options that we can best use the funding that we've received from our local community here, hundreds of donors, to do our best to preserve this for, let's say it was done in 2006 through 2008 was the first restoration. So this is the second restoration. So about 17 years. I didn't, right? Yeah. So, in your packet, I gave you some history of the building. Some of it was redundant from the roofing project and also included the option with the color scheme that takes us back to the historic restoration. And there's a couple of caveats that we've run into in doing this. Just the extreme expense of utilizing full wood throughout the structure. So we are recommending using a wood composite product where we can't use some of the original wood from the 1800s, which is actually the more solid and
High quality.
yeah, the higher quality wood that still remains on the building compared to the 2008 restoration.
Like all of the window trim.
Yeah, so all the window trim is still original and we plan to keep the original, but where we're seeing rot in some really extreme areas, we are opting to go for financial responsibility and sustainability to go with the wood composite. This will be a $200,000 investment. We already have $100,000 into the roof. This is all privately raised money, fundraising here in our community. And so we hope that you will give us your blessing so we can move forward. Jamie, do you want to add? Jamie, sorry, I haven't introduced. I have our board chair here, Jane Neff. Jay, if you can raise your hand. And Jamie Martin has helped me on this project as well as the Shea House Restoration Project. Both of them are acting as volunteers and have helped us secure the quotes that we've presented to you. Anything else you want to talk about?
No.
Show.
You want to show?
Yeah, there's a picture in your packet. And this is, Jamie mocked this up for us this afternoon that can show you some of the original coloring. And this is where we're going back to with the red roof. So I tried to do the best photoshopping that I can.
Okay.
So, any questions?
Did I understand that you're try to start on that yet this year?
Of course.
Okay.
It won't all be completed because some of the product will still need to be painted. So we will be working with, in addition to the re-siding, we have a painter that we're on his schedule for spring with your approval. So some of it will be a little unfinished through the winter.
All of the new trim will be prime white. Oh, you heard me.
Yeah.
All of the new trim will be prime white. The siding, did you tell them? The siding is pre-finished.
Okay.
So anyway.
All right.
Questions, checkbooks?
Where you said weather protection and window adjustments, the first line, we propose covering 2 east side windows from the exterior only. I'm not sure what you mean.
So
I can see the problem.
unfortunately, right, and I actually, Jamie, do you want to address it and I'll show some pictures? Yeah,
Another way to phrase the question is, why weren't these windows removed same time that the windows on the west side of the building were removed? We met with the foreman from this company that's going to help us out with this, and we stood there and said, can you figure out a way to flat that roof where it interjects into the windows? And the answer is no.
I brought some more images that kind of show you the rock that we're dealing with, and you can see that on the west side, that those windows were already covered up. So what we're proposing is that from the inside, the windows will remain. We're not removing the windows, but we would just be masking them, if you will, just to discontinue the rot that we cannot seem to find a way to repair. And those are the images that I brought today.
So from the exterior, those windows go away.
Yes, so they'll be symmetrical with the other side, which is included in your packet.
They get sided over.
Yes.
And then you say here. The aim is to retain their original wood siding where possible, but where preservation is not feasible, they will use historically compatible synthetic materials. So some of the siding is going to stay and some of it's going to be synthetic.
The wood composite.
Actually, none of the siding will stay. There will be a lot of trim that will stay. The whole entry alcove, both on the front and the back, will stay. All of the window exterior casings and sills will stay.
So you only in the future ever have to repaint the windows, you'll never repaint the siding again.
Well, everything will be needing to be repainted eventually. Remember, this is only temporary. The siding is only gonna last 50 years.
How much of it was new when you first remodeled it the last time? How much new siding was on that?
I think all of the siding differentiating from the trim is new.
Good for 50 years?
Apparently not from the first one, because
No.
here we are.
The original window trim is outlasting everything else that's on the building.
Right.
Like a 50-year roof that's good for 15 or 20 years. Usually it's all-
At least.
Because remember, Tom, it had the stucco. So they removed the stucco and that's all the siding that you now see. And that's what we're replacing again, but not the window trim. So my packet did say siding, but it should have been trim. It's the wood trim that's staying.
And that's gonna end up white.
No, it'll be this color here. That will be painted this dark.
Be primed white.
But the composite
Painted in the
beneath
spring.
it is primed white until it's painted. This composite wood product comes exactly, it will go up. Majority of the building will go up with this pre-finished.
Are the windows themselves metal? It's because they look like they're red.
No, they're wood. They're the original
So
windows.
are they gonna stay red?
No, those will be painted in the color scheme that's in the packet. They're currently purple. I have to look at pictures too. There's a lot of windows and a lot of colors. But yeah, so what you see that's purple there now will migrate over to the red.
That is the front door and the roof.
Mhm.
Okay.
What are you asking from us?
Oh,
Just approval to move.
the city lease requires city council to approve because it's our building. So we have to approve any changes. They're not asking.
Your blessing.
There's a note on there for that.
Ms. Garrett,
Hi, Karen Guppy, Houston Road. First, thank you, Kristen, for taking such good care of our historic building. Obviously, that's a passion of mine. Two questions. Are you gonna keep the same width of the clapboard? In other words, if it's 2-inch now, you're gonna keep it 2-inch, you're not gonna go to 4. And then can you help me understand, are you covering up windows that were not original to the building?
No, so we are keeping the same width, the siding,
Good.
and we're covering up. The windows are original, but once the vault was added on the west side, on the east side,
Both sides.
there's a vault added on both sides, but the west side has been handled and it's weathering fine because the windows were removed. We are now proposing not removing the 2 east side windows, but just on the exterior siding over them so that we don't have to continue to deal with the runoff in the way that the additional vault is, I have some. Yeah, the way the flashing.
Yeah, I understand.
No.
What I don't like is you're messing with the penetration of the original building,
We know,
which isn't a good thing.
it's not our first choice, but no, I have 2 different pictures, so you might have a different one.
So you can't stop this from causing it.
Right.
Yeah.
that it's not. It's something. Way. I don't think so. The other thing is.
Can we have that conversation in the back, B?
Yeah.
We all have to be able to hear it.
Should be directed
So,
toward.
you know what, maybe I need
Yeah. So the images that I showed you is the deterioration that we're just not able to confidently stop.
I got that.
So right now, you've got a nice symmetrical fenestration, the window placement on both ends, which is really cool. What they're saying is, and I understand, they're in a predicament. They'd get rid of this window on the outside, so it'd just be clappered over, which is not a good thing. Because they're stuck. This water comes from this roof line, falls down here and causes this rot. So what I was saying, and I don't know, an architect, you guys would have to figure this out. Why can't we do something with this, either through gutter or some sort of drainage, to not do something so drastic as to cover up those windows? I get where you're at. It's a tough spot.
I've been where you're
It's
at
just,
too.
it brings tears to my eyes to think you're gonna kind of mess that visual on that side, plus the fact that you're not gonna have that window, you're not gonna have the light coming in.
Well, actually, it doesn't impose in our gallery because we wouldn't want to lose the window from the standpoint of the gallery that's on the interior. But it doesn't because of the way we have our shades to block the light. It actually it doesn't change the natural light that we're getting in the gallery. So it's just a decision that we had to make.
Yeah, so you're creating a blind
So-
window. On the inside, you'll
Mhm.
see a window, but on the outside, it'll be
That's correct.
it's like a reverse boarding
Yes.
window.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but that's just the
Right.
preservation guide,
And
but I
that-
get your stuff.
And that's what was done on the opposite side. So actually, it will create a more symmetrical building because those two windows on the west side are gone. And now they'll be gone on the east side, but only on the exterior.
Yeah,
The next folks could put them back in.
save
And
those, if you do that, save them.
100%, well, we're not taking them out. We're not taking them out,
Well, on the outside though, you're gonna clapper it over it.
but we're not reusing them.
All right, I've said my piece. Thank you, Kristen. I know, it's a tough, it's a balancing act.
Anyway, yes, it is. It wasn't a decision we made easily. We've been quoting the siding for over a year now, and this is just where we landed. This is the option that we chose to present tonight, so. And who knows, maybe as the process goes on, we'll keep an open mind. I mean, I think we do really feel that way about it. It's our mission to restore all the buildings. So should something reveal itself in the process, we're certainly open to it. So I appreciate your passion for the building as well.
You may on the board have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Hard to complain about somebody wants to spend money on one-year building.
I'm with you.
So we would just need a motion from the council member to approve the request by a certain side to place a sign.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Be quicker, Jeannie. All right, I think we can do it all in favor, this one, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Jamie.
Then we quickly meeting, we'll.
I'll let you know, when we get on, we're supposed to be in their schedule in November, so I'll be sure to communicate that with you as soon as we know more.
Thank you. Oh, Kristen.
Kristen.
Boris. Oh. Okay, item 4D is, the wedding event in Marina Park that we discussed back in October. Remember, Mr. Michael Stout and Ms. Kowski wanted to use the southwest section of Marina Park for a wedding ceremony actually, that is gonna take place on Friday, June 19th, 2026. Council asked the Parks Board to review the City of Venice on public property policy and this specific request and to come back with further clarification and recommendation. As you know, they've also slightly revised their request as well. So what the detailed parks discussion, and Jamie could also add on. I know Rachel's Zoom as well, but they decided to reclassify the event from high impact to low impact. And that's important because our policy doesn't allow high impact private events, it does allow low impact private events. But they had some conditions, and part of the reasoning for reclassifying it was because of the number of people, the location, the length of time, the day. So those were the reasons for reclassifying it from high impact to low impact. But some conditions they had was that there'd be no alcohol at the park during the ceremony. There'd be shuttle for vehicles, any structures like chairs would be picked up the same day, immediately following the event. There wouldn't be any sort of staked tent at the park. And if the park tables or benches are moved, the organizer would return them to the original placement. And finally, there would be a $200 fee with a $100 security deposit, and which would be returned. The security deposit would be returned if all conditions were met. So this was Parks Board recommendation is approve it as a low impact event with those conditions.
We had a discussion about leaving a different location the last meeting.
Yeah, Jay, if you want to talk about, we talked about Zorn Park, if this location wouldn't work out. But I think since it's reclassified as low impact with those conditions that the Parks Board is recommending, it stays at that location.
Yes, also I just want to specify that I think that the Parks Board intent was to make sure that if there was any damage to the park, that they were billed for it, so. Not just the $100, yeah.
Is there any kind of an agreement that they have signing so we know that they're doing the shuttle and that stuff?
I think that that is the intention would be if we approve this, that Victor and Rachel or whoever would type up an agreement and they would have to sign it to confirm that they agree to all of our stipulations.
And if I'm understanding, we're not thinking of this as setting a precedent for.
The Parks Board also discussed that they do not believe that any downtown parks should be used for events like this during July or August. So that was something that they felt very strongly about. They are also planning to relook at all of the events on public property policies before at some throughout this year, so that we can have a better understanding and a better process for this in the future.
Yeah, and Rachel did mention that in her memo.
Oh, okay. I was just the whole high impact, low impact. I mean, 140 chairs, 140 people. Doesn't sound like low impact to me, but I understand based on the length of time that this request is that it's. I understand the hesitancy to call it a high impact event.
Victor, did you or Rachel get any feedback from the public at all about this over the last couple of weeks? Okay.
But we didn't do any sort of survey.
Right, but it was at the meeting.
Oh, right, no, but we didn't. I didn't, I don't know about Rachel, but I never seen it.
I asked a couple of people what they thought, and didn't seem to be anybody that got too excited about it one way or the other. So.
I didn't have any feedback.
All right, thanks, Rachel.
Lisa Nichols, 638 West Bluff Drive. Rachel, the only thing I would suggest is looking at limiting the month of September also, because between the taste, the book, we have a big regatta that's going to be happening this next summer, and that could become more than just 1 year. That might also be a month where there's a lot going on down there on the waterfront, and all the parks are kind of affected by that. Thank you.
I think that our policy does state that all of those annual events get precedent over any of these. So in some ways, it's kind of covered.
You have Allison Larson on Zoom.
Hi, Allison Larson, 255 East Bluff. I'm strongly opposed to the city hosting a private wedding in Marina Park. Doing so sets a concerning precedent and creates a slippery slope. If we allow one private event, what will prevent future private parties, ceremonies, or banquets from occupying public spaces at the taxpayer's expense? The city should not be in the business of operating event venues for private functions. Marina Park is a public asset funded and maintained by the taxpayers for community use, open access, and public enjoyment, not for subsidizing private events. At the end of the day, hosting this wedding means taxpayers are effectively footing the bill for someone's private celebration. That is not a responsible use of public resources. Also, 140 guests is not a small wedding by any reasonable definition. At the previous meeting, the bride-to-be even stated that they could host the ceremony at the pier where the reception is already being held. This makes it even less justifiable for the city to carve out public space for their ceremony when a perfectly suitable private option is available to them. I urge the city to consider this decision and establish clear, consistent policies that protect public spaces from being turned into private event venues. Thank you.
We do, just for some also context, we do have private events throughout town all the time at our parks. Kiwanis Park always has private events at birthday parties at the building. That's what Kiwanis Park is regularly used for. People come to parks without coming to us to host ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, they're small ones. So I think Ms. Larson's comment was taken, what's the delineation between a high impact and low impact? I think that's the real question that needs to be addressed here, though, in the long run. What is high impact and low impact? I know the Parks Board is discussing that and has had recommendations for that. But we do have our parks, private parties do use the parks all the time.
But is it truly private? If I want to throw a Frisbee in there, having their wedding.
Yes.
They chose to have their wedding there, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the difference. So we are not in the business of coordinating and off with tape saying you can't come in here if they're having an event. And that's the risk that anyone will use if they're hosting a wedding or any kind of event at public property. And it's different though than the Kiwanis building. If you're having a birthday party at Kiwanis Park, you rent out that building with that security deposit.
If I recall when we discussed that with the people that are asking for this, they understood that we were not cordoning it off, that it wasn't, we weren't giving them a private space.
And
Am I
maybe
remembering that
yeah,
right?
and maybe we can add that into one of the stipulations is, check this box to understand that we are not blocking this space off. But I think that, Marissa made a really good point to say that their ceremony is not going to be long. The people are going to gather there for the ceremony. It's going to be 20 minutes and then they're going to go to the pier, which is right there. Putting it in another park would have them spread out across the city. I think that doing it in this location, they're going to be dropped off there. They'll be there for 30 minutes and then they're going to go. That was partially why I said no alcohol. I think that that's going to push people to go straight to the pier as soon as it's over. I think that the chairs are going to be there maybe for 2 hours, but the people are only going to be there for 30 to 40 minutes. So that's why I think that we decided it was more low impact.
And it's only 1/5 of the park if you want to pull the map up again. It would have been a completely different conversation, I think, if it had been half the park.
Yeah.
Jim, would you explain to us, in your opinion, what a precedent setting decision is or isn't? What would be one?
Oh,
You're asking me, Tom?
Yeah. What constitutes a precedent setting?
Yeah, all I can say is, of course, it's a precedent, but someone will contend you did it for them, why don't you do it for me? So I mean, it's just as a practical matter, it's a precedent, but it's not one that you're bound to. It's just that someone will argue as a question of equity. Why shouldn't I get the same opportunity that you afforded to these people? So that's what you'll confront.
And if I may, when we come back to discuss the policy, the long-term policy, I think the idea is that each event will be looked at individually. We won't have like a blanket policy that one size fits all.
We did talk about putting a stipulation in our future event policy that leaves it up to council. If, you know, an event is, somebody wants to hold a wedding reception and council says, no, we don't want you to do that, then council gets to say that. So I think that this is pretty low impact for the time of the year.
Yeah, there's always a big concern about the end of, you know, this privatizing parks, right? So there's always about striking that balance, you know, are parks for the public or parks for private? But the one thing that we make clear in our policy is that you can't use the parks for any kind of for-profit activity, right? So that's clearly not allowed in our policy. So if someone, private organization wanted to use it and charge people to use it and make it for, as opposed to a nonprofit being a for-profit business. This is actually one of the reasons we created this policy in the first place. So it's not a perfect policy, but there was a organization that wanted to use it for a for-profit. We said, no, you can't make money for parks. So this is that delineation, you know, what is privatization, commercialization for parks, making sure you don't go down that route, but also recognizing that private parties do use parks all the time, you know, from picnics to birthday parties. So at what level is council comfortable with what kind of activity? It's really up to you guys.
We need to use our parks, of course. I like having the music on Thursday nights.
I guess the only other caveat, and that still be taken care of in the policy, I assume, is, you know, what we would charge if we do this kind of thing again. Okay.
I think that if council wanted to name a different price right now, we could, but I think as the Parks Board, we determined that it was low impact, and that's why we didn't feel comfortable changing the amount of money, because we do have a policy that says if it's low impact, it'll be $100. If council wants to change that, I'm sure that Marissa and Michael would be open to that, but that's just why Parks chose to keep it at $100.
I've got a brother in Grand Rapids who has a marriage barn, you know, so he provides the chairs, but he gets $3,000 or $4,000. He's booked every weekend next year, one or two, every weekend. He's booked already for next year.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, different municipalities, some municipalities do that as well. They'll have all the infrastructure needed and stuff that you can rent for parties and events. Of course, bigger municipalities. So it's not uncommon for municipalities to make money off.
I did look at a lot of other cities' event policies over the last couple of weeks, and there's not a lot of places that charge crazy amounts of money. I know that wedding venues are expensive, but when it comes to like public property, it's hard to charge a crazy amount.
Rachel, if you have your hand up.
Hi, I just wanted to state, kind of tagging off what Jamie just said. When I looked into other municipalities as well, and their costs were fairly consistent with allowing low impact wedding. I think what we need to focus on is a wedding ceremony versus a wedding ceremony and a reception. Those are two very different things to allow. So when someone is spending $3,000 or more, whatever they're spending on something, that's usually a reception included, which we would not allow per our policy. That's something also that the Parks Board has talked about, with making that more clear when we do review the policy.
It's Rachel.
I think we also talked about for an event like this, making sure that we are charging an application fee, just because it does take a decent amount of time with Rachel and Victor having to bring it to council and Rachel going back and forth. Charging some kind of application fee in the future for events like this so that the city is covered.
So what we have is basically a recommendation from the Parks Board on this specific event, and then to continue working on updating the policy. So any motion would only be needed for the actual event.
I move that we accept the Parks Board recommendation for the wedding event at Marina Park on June 19th, I think.
Yep.
I've got the right date?
You do.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I guess be all in favor, so I'll say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
I win.
All right, the next agenda item is city manager search recruitment process. I gave a basic overview of the standard, what many municipalities do to recruiting city managers. My last day is December 16th. The city charter states that council has 90 days from that date to appoint another manager. Council should definitely appoint interim city manager so you can spend the necessary time on the qualified candidate. But generally, there's multiple ways you can make a hire and recruit city manager. Typically, communities will issue an RFP with a proposal for a search consultant, and we'll spend a couple of weeks gathering proposals. And we already have some that did cold call proposals already, emailed us. And then you come at a future council meeting, select the consultant you want to use, that consultant, then meet with that consultant, they'll set up a process for how to hire a city manager. Usually it's meeting with council members, meeting with staff, and stuff the council, you can meet with community members as well. They'll prepare a brochure, recruitment package. They'll advertise the position probably for about 4 weeks, but it depends on how fast council wants things to go. Likely will be 2 rounds of interviews after the search consultant does some screening. They'll screen all the applicants and then they'll make a recommendation of 5 or 6 or more candidates, depending on how many council wants to interview. Usually 2 interviews. First will be 5 or 6 candidates, then it'll dwindle down to 2 or 3. So by the time that's done, offer, you probably will have someone here April or May is, that could be a 5 to 6 month process depending on when that person can start. That's pretty typical. I don't think there's a very urgent need to fill that right away if you have an interim city manager, but you don't want to spend too much time, So you could also, other ways you could do it, you could just have, Jim Raymer, myself, or staffs, make some cold calls to consulting firms anyway, and just say, get a couple quotes and bring them back to you. This way, issuing RFPs are probably the most fair way. You're giving everyone an opportunity, and you're not having, us who are not experts at this process, making recommendations when you can have an RFP where people will equally have a chance to submit their proposal. So yeah, or you could, just go about doing any other way you want. Council can have Jim Raymer lead the city. I don't think he wants to, but you can have someone, or you can have a committee, the council members, staff lead it and do the screening, but the most professional ways that happens. Also, I think, as I mentioned, you should appoint an interim city manager. My recommendation, even though I won't be here, is to have someone internally, just be easier for the continuity of operations. By the time you find an interim from the outside and they get accustomed, acquainted to what's going on here, it'll be two months into the process. You'll almost be at the point for getting a new city manager. So my recommendation is Chief Knight. For what it's worth, I think he has a great working relationship with staff and council and the community. He would have significant staff support from Nick Whitaker, Rachel Roon, Jeff, everyone in the office. He does have a sergeant to take over many of the police duties. Chief Knight did not beg me to make this recommendation. It just came to mind, you know, just because I feel like you'd be great for it. He's used to writing reports. He's very detailed and thorough in his reports, and it'll give me an opportunity to just, if it's an internal candidate like Chief Knight, just it'd be much easier to get him up to speed on our issues and projects and how we do things here as opposed to an external candidate. So that's my recommendation for what it's worth, but it's totally up to you guys, of course, and it's your process.
How many different recruitment companies are there that we
If
consider?
you're talking about the state, there's probably a couple dozen if they're focused on this full stuff and other executive. There's always some popping up. Some people do it just as a part-time thing and they've done like a few, you know, recruitments. Some like MML have done, you know, hundreds. If you can also attract sometimes national recruits too, you know, when you put an RFP out there, you might get a national recruiter. And I think, was it Boyne City just hired a city manager from Oklahoma or Kansas? I forget. They use a national search. So I mean, it depends on what you guys want, how you guys want to do it. But I think having an RFP will show you the options of who's interested. You know, if you have someone from out of state leading the process, the disadvantage is, you know, they don't know the state as well. And, you know, there's more expenses with them involved, but they have a larger reach. So it depends on what, you know, council wants to do.
It sounds like we have two decisions though, really, to appoint an interim and to decide how we want to approach the permanent.
Yeah, you
position.
don't need to appoint an interim yet. You can if you want to. I'm just throwing it out there. So you guys know, of course, you can do it at a future meeting. But I think the decision you absolutely need to make today is how you want to get this process going. Because you need to get the ball rolling at least, you know, to get someone working on this. But the interim, you can wait until December 1st or December 15th.
I think we should accept Chief Knight's offer before he comes to his senses and runs out. I changed my mind. It's an incredibly generous thing to do for us.
You know, what I'll say, I don't have this skill set. I like if you take your phone and you actually go to like your grandchild and he's got that ability. I'll give you 110% and I'll do the best job I can and I'll be around. I just got one planned vacation between Christmas and New Year. But I'll have my phone with me and even regardless of the police chief, I would be at that vacation. I'd love to do it. I spoke with Victor. This is my town and I care about what goes on here. And I feel like I can connect with everybody and continue to bridge that time between when Victor leaves and when we get a new city manager. And I'll do my best. That's what I'll try to do. And that's what I'll say. I'd love to do it. Just to try to continue to, I feel like we're going in the right direction.
You'll still wear your shorts, right?
Oh, I hope I don't have to wear my shorts when we have a new city manager. But the good thing for me as well is it's my slow time of the year. Because it's right, we don't have the 4th of July and that stuff, but we will have a new city manager by May or June. It's my slow time, so that's what I'll offer. I'll give you 100%. That's all.
Thank you.
Chief Knight, I would recommend, even though my last day is December 16th, maybe appointing him December 16th for his role to take over. Overlap with me 1 day, but I guess just put me as city employee for 1 day.
And the thing I'll say is, if you do choose me, it'll give me an opportunity to work with Victor I know I'm not every meeting, but to know how to do things, just get the process rolling, continue to roll.
I think we should take public comment before we discuss it any further.
But comment on
All right.
I think this is on the process or interim, any of this.
Turn that.
Hello, my name is Kathy Sinclair. I'm the CEO and founder of Recruiters International. We're based out of Birmingham, Michigan. I also own property in Harbor Springs. I live at 1604 Arrowhead in Birchwood. part-time. I heard about the city manager leaving mostly because I live there and talked to people, saw it in the newspaper. So I figured since I'm a recruiter and I've been recruiting for 33 years, that I do have the experience to do this position. I've recruited hundreds and hundreds of positions. I have a full staff of recruiters. I've done everything from global automotive searches all the way down to municipal searches as well. I have a degree in public policy, so my degree is actually in city management. I also do corporate board searches. I do quite a bit of search for, in particular, women, placing women on corporate boards. I've been doing that for about 30 years. I do a joint venture with Crane Detroit Business, but I also put men on. So I just wanted to let you know that I am available for the search. I've given a packet to the council members. I'm available anytime, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I'm available by Zoom, virtual. I'm also available to come here and work. If you choose to go with another firm, I understand. And I also am available to consult. If you have any questions about the process, what to expect, how to work through it, I can even consult directly on an hourly basis with you. Answer any questions that you need. I'm available, like I said, 24/7. Does anybody have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, can I also like to make comment at this time?
Linda Rockwitz, 519 East Third Street. Well, this is a no-brainer. If Chief Knight will do this, I think for all the reasons that Victor has stated and Chief Knight has stated.
Thank you. Anybody on the board have a comment like to make?
I guess about the process, I think that to be fair, it would make sense to issue an RFP so that we can really find out all of our options. And then I also think that you mentioned a couple of other ways. I am not in favor of a subcommittee to make this decision. I think that the more that is done at council meetings, the better. I think that that will add to the transparency and just put us in a better position.
I'll make a motion to accept Chief Knight's willing to accept the position temporarily.
So the point, Chief Knight, interim city manager, starting December 16th.
Okay. I'll second.
I'm wondering if we want him to start earlier than the 16th so we can, let's say, shadow Victor for, say, a week.
I think he's planning to do that anyway, but I think that Victor is going to still act as city manager because he's getting us through the budget season.
So yeah, I mean, that's really the big thing is, I mean, unless Kyle wants to present the budget. But again, he definitely will. I think at one point, you should also consider, you know, what kind of compensation, extra compensation be there for Chief Knight for assuming additional responsibility. So
is that something we should go into closed session to do at some point?
you could do that and discuss, but I don't think you need to discuss that now. I don't think.
Right. Okay.
I think, you know, for example, when Clerk Whitaker, when he was interim city manager between Tom Richards and myself, he was for like 6 weeks, and then council gave some sort of stipend that at the end of it. But so it's either up to you. It should be recognized that he should be given. Like if you were, for example, if you were to take in an interim city manager from elsewhere, they're going to charge anywhere probably between $2,000 and $4,000 a week to act as the interim city manager. So like it's, you know, it costs quite a bit of money. We already have someone on staff. They're already getting paid, so a little extra money that, you know, is for the manager and duties is the appropriate.
It's an easy job, right?
So we have a motion on the table, to make by Tom Graham, second by Kathy Macho, to have Chief Knight, as an interim city manager starting December 16th, through when the city hires a new city manager. Or until when the new city manager starts. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the confidence and I'll give you 100%. I still plan on, I still plan on being a police chief as well. Normally I start my day around 5:30. My goal would be like that's why I almost every day. So I work 5:30 to 8:30 over there, and Victor and I'll talk. If I need to come over here, I'll come over here for the rest of the day. But I got Sergeant Bishop to help as well. So it'll work, but I want to continue to do both jobs. I still want to have a little bit of figuring what's going on over there. So, but I appreciate the confidence you guys have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And the second topic is the process of selecting the city manager. So what process do you want to use? Want me to issue an RFP or do you want to?
I like what Jamie said. I totally agree that it should be a council decision and not a subcommittee, and that we should do that.
My recommendation for that is to, the RFP will be pretty simple, straightforward. We'll post it, tomorrow or Wednesday, but we have a December 8th council meeting. That's normally it's not a special meeting, I misspoke in here, it's a regular meeting scheduled but specifically for the budget. However, we could add, if you're comfortable with about 2 weeks of collecting our proposals, we can decide at December 8th meeting on which consultant to use. So I think you'd want to get started in December of at least that consultant, getting the process started.
Yeah. So at this time, do we just need to decide that we want to just put this in out as an RFP, and then any other
anything else will be decided between you and the consultant. The whole process,
okay.
Everything else, I would just lay out what a typical process could look like for government. So the consultant, they'll explain to you what their process could be much different. It could be, they'll gear their process toward what, you want to see as a council members, how much do you want community involvement in the shaping, of the process.
Okay, and how we structure that.
Yes,
okay,
that'll all
that's
be
fine.
This was just an example.
I move that we issue a request for proposals to get proposals from qualified executive search
To make a
consultants
decision by December 8th council meeting.
rather than December 1st,
Yeah.
December 8th.
December 1st would be too soon.
That would be too, okay, so because we need, that gives them three,
Yeah.
well, okay, that makes sense.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can you make sure that when you get, there's somebody drawing on your screen.
Yeah.
That they know that we're gonna be discussing it at December 8th so that they can be on Zoom if we have any questions.
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful.
Moving on, I think there are some, already, like I said, some over the year we had, so I'll hold on to those and I'll let those individuals know if they want to submit anything revised as well. I am not asking for a pay increase for being the city clerk tonight as well, just let them know. I have to take like 8 roll calls. I'm not using the job. All right, so city manager's report, we have just a few updates. The CIP plan is on the documents page on the website. The draft capital improvements plan, the planning commission will be reviewing at its November 20th meeting. The council will have its first official review at December 1st. So of course, you can go to documents page and look at the draft CIP yourselves right now, but our first official review. Planning commission will review it, make any recommendations to the council about it. We are closed at City Hall and the rest of our departments, except that we'll have three, of course, working, but it's Thursday and Friday. I don't know why it's December, it's November 27th and 28th for Thanksgiving.
Oh,
I guess I'm already halfway up the so, yeah, we'll be closed, we'll have that 4-day weekend, Thanksgiving holiday. The planning commission did recommend, the draft zoning code for council review and approval, so you'll probably likely have your first presentation view of the zoning code at December 1st meeting. And a public hearing, which was requested by a member of the public, which would likely be at the December 15th meeting. So we do have, because the planning commission recommended it, council does have to take up the zoning. It's required. And finally, the lawsuit, our lawsuit, there's a mediation scheduled for December 2nd. So we'll have more information to you, Jimmy, we will, if you need to go in closed session about that in the future.
Can you let us know when you guys have the budget ready for us? I know usually the goal is before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it will be ready before Thanksgiving.
Just shoot us an email that we can pick it up when you're ready.
Will do. So yeah, basically, you know, we've seen a lot of increase in our social media followers and users, so that's always a good thing. That means more people have more access to our information, you know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, increasing, as well as email notices. People subscribe to receive email notices. That's good. And as far as meetings, we just had a MPPA virtual board meeting. Remote board meeting, not a whole lot of new stuff, but I feel in 2026, there's been a lot of changes in the market and the laws. So there's some, I would say it's not stability issues, but there's just some things that aren't as predictable as they used to be when it came to the energy markets. And so we'll probably have some bigger decisions to make in 2026 or 2027 about energy purchases and projects, but that's a lot of what we're talking about, so that's all I have for my manager report, unless anyone has any specific questions. That's the operations. All right, so the next agenda item, I think. Yeah, boards and commissions, so after each election, council reappoints its own members to the specific boards and commissions for council members to serve on. We have several boards, of course. I'll just run through them really quickly and then you guys can take them one board at a time. Harbor Commission, the mayor can serve or he can appoint any designee. The designee does not need to be a council person. It can be a council person or he can continue serving with his. The Downtown Development Authority, the mayor must serve on the DDA, that's per our city code. Parks and Recreation Board, the mayor appoints a council member with majority approval of the council. Planning Commission, anyone on council can appoint a council member with majority council approval. Tree Advisory Board, the mayor appoints with approval of the council. Zoning Board, the council appoints with the majority of council. And then the Sewage Authority is a appointment by council. And Fire Authority, the mayor serves. So that is it. So I think we should just take it one by one. I can just start. Mr. Mayor, do you want to continue serving the Harbor Commission? Or do you want to have a designee?
I'm happy to stay in
you're
there.
happy, okay, because I would be happy to do it if you didn't want to.
No, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, okay.
Right. So Tom, by default, you're also on the DDA. Parks and Recreation Board. Mr. Mayor, do you want to appoint a councilman?
Who's on that board now?
Ma'am,
Would you like to stay?
sure.
If Jamie gets that job.
Yeah, vote, right?
Yeah, you have to vote on that.
You go.
Oh, I can second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Jamie? Planning Commission.
I'd love to stay on, or get back on if I can.
I support that.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Tree Board, the mayor must serve or you can appoint designee town.
Would you like me to do that one?
Yes, I would.
I'd be happy. to. Okay, great.
Kathy. Tree Board. That one doesn't need. Oh, yeah, majority All in favor?
Aye.
Zoning board,
I'm on it now, but I'm happy to relinquish it or stay,
I cannot,
either way.
I have a schedule conflict. That
Oh,
board.
that's right, we do.
Sorry.
So that's up to, I don't
it's
know.
up to you all.
Wendy isn't panting
It
for
doesn't say what night it meets.
They meet the second Wednesday
at 5:30.
5:30 PM when is as needed.
I think they met 3 or 4 times this year.
Oh, yeah, maybe 5.
They didn't meet at all the first half of the year, I think, and then they met several times.
We've met
3 times since.
Several.
I'm happy to do it. I'd like to stay on the sewer authority.
Oh, okay. It doesn't matter to me. I didn't know if you
But
wanted
as
it.
I've already pointed out, the sewer authority is a 25-minute task.
So it's up, I mean, it's up to you if you'd like to do the ZBA. I'm not gonna.
That's fine, I'll do it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? All right, and now the sewer authority.
You can keep it.
It also left Nick out of this because he also serves on that.
We're just appointing council members at this point. I think he serves as long as he's still city clerk. I think, and we also have a resident at large who was appointed for longer term is 3 years or something. 3 years, so,
I think last year council just said, yes, we want to keep Nick
yeah.
on there, but I don't know. That's just what I remember. So. I'm,
You okay with keeping that comment?
yeah. I think he likes it.
He likes meetings.
So Wendy and Nick. Okay.
Nick's a very valuable member of that.
Any opposed? I would say all in favor for Wendy and Nick. So,
Yes. Aye.
all right, and then, Mr. Mayor, you are on the fire authority. So, the other ones, the airport authority, Nick is as a city clerk, he's on the airport authority. I serve as a CCE 911 appointee. And then also an MPPA. So I think Nick is the alternate for the MPPA.
Did you say that the 911 is, but has to be a city manager?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would have to be our city manager and the Petoskey city manager.
And when I started here, the Petoskey city manager was the appointee and I was the substitute, and then when he left his job, then I took over. So I'm assuming, since when I leave, the Petoskey city manager Shane Horn, he'll take over, and then our guy will be the alternate, whoever turns out to be the city manager. Because it takes a while to get familiar with that board, what's going on. So
I had talked to Nick the other day and we don't have any access to any of the agendas for like the fire authority, sewer authority, or the airport authority, and it would be nice if council could just get like forwarded those agendas so we know when the meetings are, if we want to attend or if we have any questions, and we can just see what they're talking about.
yeah, so that's a difficult one in the sense that we don't want to we don't oversee those authorities. So they're their own authority. So whoever the manager is there, they're responsible for posting the agenda. So if there's a way, because I know Nick is on the clerk, he's at least on, I think he attends all of them, the sewer authority, airport, and so if you can get the email through him, the agenda through him that way, that'd be fine. But I know it's been brought up of why doesn't the city, post these agendas on the website? It's really up to that entity's responsibility to do it, and you don't want to start assuming their
Do they
responsibilities.
post them anyway?
They post them physically for open meetings, and post them at their physical locations, but they don't have websites.
Okay, so
They don't have websites.
Where is their physical?
Well, the sewer authority is at its location on Con.
the airport is.
Got it. So the water or the
sewer, the fire, and the airport.
Got it.
So yeah, it's just, I don't think the city should assume that responsibility of.
That's not what I was asking.
Yeah, I understand, but
I was just asking if there's a way for us to access
Yeah.
that information.
Nick serves on all three of those parts, so he could, him or someone in the office could, when they get the agenda forwarded to you. But yeah, I don't want to speak on behalf of Nick. It's probably,
He mentioned that was possible. I just don't. I'd like to mention it at meetings, but everyone is aware.
All right, so the next agenda item, and this, some of the council doesn't have to do tonight, but there's a open seat on the planning commission. After Cheney had to resign from her resident appointee once she became the council member. So there was that seat vacant. We had one person apply, and then we had someone else. I said one person applied on Monday, today, sorry, and someone used the old applicant. Use an old application form on Friday to apply for it. And then we have a running list of people who've applied with their application still on file. I reached out to them, none of them, said they were interested or got back to me. It doesn't have to be filled today. I understand because I didn't post it like I posted the other because it's just such a short notice. So I didn't post the vacancy, so I can go and repost the vacancy for a couple of weeks and see if you have more applicants. Or you can go ahead and post some tonight based on the application you have.
Be nice if we had more applicants.
There are 3 spots opening up in December.
Yeah.
As well as this opening.
Yeah, so this seat's vacant right now, and then there will be 3 more coming up that expire at the end of 2020. I can tell you right now, the applications you have right now are the applicants that we have so far for the planning commission, for this seat as well as for those that come up in December. So those applications are due, I think, December 11th. So I know, I'm sure some people will still turn in applications.
I guess I'm concerned about. There are always lots of things ongoing with the planning commission. If, it makes sense to leave it vacant, even if it's just for a month or a month and a half.
Having been on the commission and then off and then back on again, I think the consistency is nice, and I think that Bob has put a ton of time in. And I would recommend putting him back on.
What do you think?
I'm just gonna wait till, see if we get more applicants, we're gonna need them.
I agree with Jeannie that I think consistency is really great. I think that Bob only lost his seat because he did us a favor and moved over to council, and so I do think that it makes sense to give him a seat back.
Who makes it? Jim, do you have that in front of you?
It's
Mayor,
I
the mayor.
believe the mayor.
So it's up to the mayor.
I'll make a motion to appoint Bob back to the planning commission. Thank you.
It would be the council approval.
I'll second.
Okay, Jeannie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Well.
Do you want us to do our board reports?
Yeah, probably.
Sorry. Yeah. Parks talked about events on city property. We spent a lot of time going back and forth about that wedding, and that event. What else did we talk about? I forget what else. I'll report after Kathy does.
We're still working on fundraising.
Okay. The CBA meeting was last Wednesday, is that the day? Yes. We had a variance request for a property on Traverse Street. I can't remember the exact address, but it's a house across the street from Little Harbor Club. And they asked to have a variance to extend their garage back. The reason it needed a variance is because their property has been there since before the zoning code. And so there was part of their garage, like 4 feet of it, is already in the setback, so they were in non-conformance. So even if they're just adding to the back, it extends that 4-foot non-conformance back for that distance. There's no violation of any of the other setbacks. So we approved the variance.
I'll go back to my report. We, the Parks Board talked about historical marker signs for Zorn Park. And so they are going to work with the tribe to apply to get that marked as a historical site with a plaque. The process can take years, so they just approved of starting that process and turning in the application. And then we also talked about repairing the fountain that is in Upper Zorn.
Anyone out there?
The sewer authority met on Thursday, and their report is that the city of Harbor Springs is still dealing with an inflow issue. The lake levels are low, that illegal connections are still performing well. Some pumps and flowing wells. The city is still the #1 contributor of flow with an average 8,000 more gallons per year than all the other entities, which are Littlefield, Alanson, Little Traverse, and Bear Creek. So you're paying to clean water. It's essentially what we're doing.
I'm sorry, did I hear you correctly? Yeah. That we're paying for, I'm sorry, we're paying for clean?
We're
I think
putting
terrible.
clean water through the sewer authority and we have to
Okay.
pay for it. That's the problem. The problem is we cannot figure out how to locate the people who are doing it.
There is a way to do that, you just have to do it in the winter, sorry. I'll have to do it because I was at the budget meeting this morning for sewer authority, and if we wanted to determine where that clean water was coming from, we'd have to do it in the middle of the winter when there's low occupancy in the city, and we could take a camera and determine if there was clean water coming out of certain areas. It could be that, you know, the problem is that it's much easier to go into the sewer with your sump pumps than it is to go out to the storm sewer out. It's more expensive, obviously. But that's where it properly goes. And it could be some city, it could be all out of the drinking fountains and some of the city wells too that are not going to the proper place either, but probably private residences. Sorry, didn't mean to do this, but something to the effect of, if you think about that 8,000 gallons per REU, we're pumping about 16 million gallons of clean water into the sewer authority per year. And there's a cost to that. I mean, we get charged for that on a gallon basis. And so we could be saving ourselves, it's about 13% of what we're doing. So it just affects capacity and it affects cost. So.
Wendy, has the sewer authority is cost to do this prohibitive? I mean, do we know what it would cost or?
It'd be a city thing. The city would have to.
It's our expense. We basically we either do it ourselves or we hire the sewer authority to do it and then we pay them to do it.
Got it, okay. But we don't have any idea how long it would take, so is that?
No, yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious.
And you know, what you could also do is, you know, based on the advice of the sewer authority and or DPW is, you know, target specific areas they might think are culprits instead of doing the whole system. So that way you can take your shot of, you know, where to do it, but that has its risk as well, you know, you might not identify, but so.
Two comments. I don't know the facts, but I've always heard that the Bay Street sewer is underwater and has leaked for years, and they corrected it somewhat years ago, but I'm sure it's still underwater, I guess.
Bay Street.
Sewer, sanitary sewer. Should be information and around someplace. The other comment, years ago, the trouble with all the same thing, the phone wells and all the houses mostly in east, second, third and fourth. And I think they pushed sewer gas into the sewer and then of course that would go up their pipe apparently. And so when people called to complain about the sewer smell, they knew they had water running into the, is that an option available again? They have to tell on themselves. A lot of houses down there used to have fish tanks, traps around. New York had fish in the basement 1 year.
I don't know about that, but maybe,
I think there's a pipe from the New York basement to the lake.
possibly.
Used
I've
to
heard
be.
the pier has fish.
Good fish in there.
Yeah.
Any other boards or commissions to report?
She does.
Anything else to?
City council, the new business.
I would like to bring up one thing, or maybe two. I would like to look at all of the different committees' bylaws and or just our policies on subcommittees. And make sure that all of our boards and commissions have either rules or we set rules for the city about who and how these subcommittees operate. I feel like there's a little bit of inconsistency, and then there's also a part in the board and commission handbook on subcommittees, and I just want to make sure that all of the boards that are using subcommittees are making sure to follow those rules.
So I want to add that to a future agenda, so if we look at our bylaws, what the bylaws state on subcommittees for each board and commission.
I would like to, I don't. If that's something anyone else is interested in or concerned about.
It's be a great task for Kyle to take on.
This relates to a specific board or commission, and I'm not sure the appropriate time, but I was wondering when the city, if there's any expenditure, not only do we approve the CIP and approve the budget, but we also have to approve any expenditure when it comes along, if it's more than 10,000, because that's the level of authority, right, that we have, that the city manager has, correct?
Correct.
So would this apply to any boards or commissions that have spending authority?
No, I don't think so. For example, because the city manager, I think the DDA is an example of this, as spending authority. The DDA has its own separate state obligations and responsibilities than ours. Our policy really refers to the city manager's spending compared to what the council approves in the budget. The DDA, for example, their authority approves their own budget in addition to the council approving the budget, and then the director of that DDA can spend money according to their authorities policies on how they should spend money, if they have any. And
so essentially, but they're limited to what budget is passed.
right, they're limited what budget is passed, and there are certain projects in the downtown development plan, for example, that should come back to council for collaboration and review. So those, but if, for example, if the council approves the budget for the DDA, they should make it clear on which, projects they want to see come before the council for.
So are you saying that if the council approved a certain budget line item on the DDA budget of however much money, let's say 50,000, are you saying that DDA does or does not have the authority to spend that 50 however they want, as long as it's under that project?
Yes, except for what's in the downtown development plan, in my opinion. So there's projects listed in the downtown development plan that state, in collaboration with the review by council, but then there's other ones that, that don't need. So as long as you guys are approving the budget, you really need to look at the projects that you're approving, as well, that budget.
Okay, so it would be up to council to look at those specifics at the time we approve the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is
Okay.
asking them to follow the city purchase and procurement policy crazy? I mean, we developed that because it's best practices and if they don't have their own policy on that, I just think that it isn't out of line for us to request that they follow that as well. I mean, I don't know that we should, if it's something in their budget, I understand, but I think they should still have to get 2 bids on things that are over $10,000. There's just a lot of really good best practices in that policy that I think it would benefit them.
You can certainly ask them, and that's your, you know, that's, for example, that is a policy. Now, the way to get all, potentially the boards, all the DDA and the council, right, DDA director and city manager, for example, to spend, to have those limits, or if you put them in the city code, right, if you make an ordinance of it, that, you know, because you have an ordinance for the DDA right now. I don't know if it would jive with state law, but you could have, the city code has an ordinance on setting up a downtown development authority. If you wanted to potentially look into providing the ordinance, look at that, or you can just ask them to follow the policy. So,
I mean, I think that we created a lot of things like the board and commission handbook, and they use that, so why not use the other policies that we created?
You can recommend that, absolutely.
And you could also make it a condition of your approval of the budget.
Okay, as long as we have that authority. Okay,
We have to approve the budget, you got control.
All right.
yeah, as long as we can maintain that control. And then I also wanted to bring up, there was concern about potential closed meetings, and conflict of interest, and I was just wondering if, Jim, you have any help to what we are facing as far as conflict of interest going into closed session?
You specifically talking about Potter lawsuit?
Yeah.
I think I'd like to research that one before I commented on it.
Okay.
That's something council would like me to do.
Yes.
Yes.
I've heard,
Yeah.
I would need a council.
Do you want to
Yes.
take a vote or?
Yeah, Jeannie Benjamin,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Tom Graham,
Sure.
Jimmy Melky.
Yes.
Wendy Reed.
Yes.
So Attorney Jim Ramo will research conflict of interest related to lawsuit. And then, Jamie, you did mention, I want to circle back to your subcommittee. I didn't get a nod, yes or no, also if they want that to be on the future agenda. About looking at something, yeah.
I think that, I know the Parks Board has some rules. I think theirs are the most strict. DDA doesn't have any rules. Planning Commission only has a rule that their chair has to be there, I think. So it would just be nice that if we're using some subcommittees, which aren't the most favorable way to do things, that we had some kind of policy or rules that all of the boards had to follow.
Yeah.
Some of you are not.
Yes.
Any other old and new business?
I think we're about there, aren't we?
Right. I'm good.
Everybody good here on the board? Glad to have you here, Gene.
Thanks for having me.
Any, no further thing to discuss, be adjourned.